Hi, Racheli from Israel. Yeah, thanks for your question, and it meets me as a very powerful question and a very difficult one. Namely, it's about the privilege gaps that you keep experiencing every day in the relationship between you and your partner, where regardless of how much you love each other and how you communicate and all these kind of a typical things that already can make our relationships quite challenging and difficult. But now you also have these huge privilege gaps in which one person is, let's say, more privileged and the other unprivileged in the society. So one is having every single day in every fabric of the society that he or she is meeting is having a very specific experiences, very often painful and frustrated, and the other one not. So in a way, it feels almost like living in a completely different universes, even though you share your life. So how to deal with that and how can NVC help in that? Wow. So I have a few thoughts coming up for me, and I hope they will be useful in a certain way. One thought is that, of course, I'm imagining there might be very strong assumptions in place, assumptions that the other one cannot get us. That, like, how can you ever get me? You're a man. How can you ever get me? How can you ever understand how it is to give birth to a child, for instance? Or you are white. How can you ever understand me, being with a dark skin? How it is to be judged over the color of my skin, and so forth and so forth. And I imagine these very deeply seated assumptions can prevent us from really hearing each other. I want to say a couple of things about that. So one thing is that, ultimately speaking, of course, I can never understand how it is to be you. Never. Let alone if you're of different gender or different skin color and so forth and so forth. How can I ever really get? I can intellectually understand about certain aspects of it, but it will always be just a narrow experience, a narrow understanding. I can never fully get how it is to be you. So I would want to acknowledge that. Like it's true. I can do my best, I can try my best, but I can never really understand. The other thing that I would really again and again want to bring into my awareness when having such conversations, maybe even to acknowledge it before we have it, maybe just to name it before we have that conversation, is the fact that the other person is always talking about themselves. Always. Somehow it seems that in these situations, very often, we as the listeners have the tendency to start defending ourselves. Let's say if my partner will say to me, how can you ever understand? Because, you're a man, how can you ever understand this? I immediately have a sense, oh, she's talking about me being a man, and she's misinterpreting that. She's not seeing me in my intentions. She's not seeing me in my desire to really understand her. And then immediately I start defending myself in my mind, or even if in my words. In any case, I will not be really listening anymore. Even if I don't interrupt her, if I just, kind of have these thoughts, again, there is some sort of activation building up in me, preventing me from really listening to her because I'm occupied with myself. Oh, but that's not true, but I'm not like this and I'm like that and da. So I would want to keep bringing into my awareness whatever another person is saying. It's always about them. It's never about me. It's never judging my capacity to to hear or to listen. They're just expressing their own desire to be heard. They're showing me their own vulnerable and wounded and bleeding heart. So if I can step out of myself in a way and stop defending myself, but kind of take a position of the third person, a mediator, let's say, that might make it more possible for me to really, really hear them. Of course, doing all the NVC practices that I assume you're familiar with, like reflecting back and so forth and so forth. And the third thing I want to suggest is that, exploring creatively other possible ways of engaging. Let me give you just one idea. With my partner, once we were kind of stuck in some sort of, oh, you don't understand me, and she had an experience, I'm not understanding her, and somehow we got stuck there. And then the idea came about that we sat down for a dialogue, for a talk, for a conversation, but we took ourselves out of the picture, meaning I was talking to her not as to my partner, but I was talking to her as to my friend, a friend from wherever, or an acquaintance of mine who's asking me, hey, how are you doing in your relationship with your partner? And then I was talking to this friend of mine. I was trying to describe, as if they don't know anything. I was trying to describe how I'm doing with my partner. And an interesting thing, and then, for 15 minutes, and then we would swap roles. And an interesting thing that happened was that me just talking about my relationship with my partner to an acquaintance or a friend. And you know how it is with role plays. At the beginning, it doesn't really seem natural, but then within a couple of minutes, you dive in. So by doing that, somehow I started to see her, my partner, way more compassionately. And I also started to understand myself deeper and better. And I was able to be more honest about myself because I wasn't subconsciously protecting anything. So that's just one idea that could be, it just, it can bring this small little click that then helps things to evolve. Another one is that might also help is switching into, just for a certain time, a non-verbal communication. In terms of, I'll sit here, can you show me, not tell me, but show me how it is to be you? Can you dance for me how it is to be you? Can you move? Can you express it through your movement, how it is to be you? And then we'll go back and forth. Just somehow to get out of these assumptions, we cannot be heard and the other man is not hearing me, and justifying ourselves. So these are a few thoughts that come up for me, and I'm hoping this might be of some use and meaning to